Pancakes, and welcome back to Dusk, a two-lit podcast. I'm your host, Cosette, and today I'm joined by the rest of our lovely ensemble. Ensemble, speak to me. Tell me who you are, what you do, where you're at.
Hello, I'm Audrey. I'm originally from New York, but I was studying in Edinburgh, and now I'm living in Peru for a couple of months before eventually going back to Edinburgh.
Hi, I'm Caroline. I'm from Connecticut, and I moved to Glasgow to study musical theatre, and I now live in London.
My name is Allie. I'm originally from Kansas, but currently I'm living in Missouri, working in Arkansas.
We love it. We're all over the place, quite literally. And what was your favorite role that you played as a member of the ensemble?
Ooh, that's a very good question. There are so many, not the curtains. I think honestly the stick was quite fun because I got to run, and then me and Anthony just hung out in the pocket for like a solid 5 minutes, and we would dance, or we would he would conduct the music with the stick, or we found a way to keep ourselves entertained back there. So that was quite fun, just because I got to hang out with him and also move, because a lot of the ensemble stuff is just standing very still. So I enjoyed running across the stage.
I always say the fan just because it was fun, but I also Audrey and I were scene partners in the background of, and every day Audrey would come up with a new secret to tell me. And I think the first one was something about pregnancy. I don't remember, but it was so good, and I almost broke. So yeah, I had a lot of fun being the high schoolers just in the background. There was a lot of drama going on at that high school that we'll never know about.
Yeah, I think I was pregnant with Eglet's child on opening night. Then I think I committed accidental vehicular manslaughter the second night or something like that. It was but then there was pressure because I had to keep coming up with things to tell Caroline, because every night she was like, it needs to get juicier, and I started with the pregnancy. So then it was really hard to build from there.
Allie, what was your favorite role?
It was the most difficult to do for me personally, but I loved being the headlight with Caroline because it was so unhinged and chaotic, and the process of figuring out she got it immediately and I didn't. But being a part of an iconic scene like that was just so much fun.
So we're in very different places, in very different time zones right now, but what is giving you life this week? What is keeping you too lit?
Well, it's the end of summer here, which means it's Carnival. So last night there was a paint throwing party in a big plaza. You can still see some of it is on my necklace, but you go out into this plaza and basically you just get, and it's thick paint, and people just attack you. They go right for the eyes and the hair. It's still in my hair. I haven't washed it yet. You just get actually attacked with giant globs of paint. And then there was a party after, and they brought out a band. Everybody just danced in the square all covered in paint and got quite drunk. And there was definitely one guy who was on some combination of drugs that was making him see God. He was in a different place than the rest of us. But that party was very fun.
I don't know how to follow that. I don't know. I'm just getting a bit more into writing. I've got a show coming up that I wrote a monologue for, and I'd no part in the casting process. No, I literally so hands off, and I'm just really excited to see someone else just kind of perform something and have their own take on it without any notes on me, and to see a bunch of the other writers and kind of just network with really exciting new people. Excited for that.
I love that. That's so incredible. I've been doing a lot more of trying to focus on giving myself the time to relax and de-stress from the chaos that is the business we work in. And so like taking a lot more private time. For example, yesterday when I was at home, I was binge watching Queer Eye, like going back and rewatching the old episodes, and I was sobbing. It's like, these people are so beautiful. This is just such a beautiful world to live in. And I think just allowing myself to appreciate the little things is giving me life.
Amazing. I kind of like Caroline. Yesterday I had a meeting, a planning committee meeting for a Amdram company that I work with, and I have been commissioned to write a Christmas show. This last year, I did a version of A Christmas Carol, and it went really, really well. And they said, okay, you've got to come back and do something this year, but you have to write something. And I told them to give me some time, and I haven't had any ideas. And then yesterday I sat down and wrote 11 pages. So we have something's happening, and it's giving me life. It's giving me life a little bit. It's also very stressful because I didn't plan it out. I just started writing, and all of a sudden I'm 11 pages in, and I'm like, these characters, a lot of things have to happen to them. And I just started writing, and I don't know where they're gonna go, but now we're, a quarter into this narrative that I have to complete.
What's gonna happen?
I don't know. It's just supposed to be a fun Christmassy holiday show, and like all of a sudden there's like a very dysfunctional family forming, but it's also really, really funny. And I'm like, I don't know where this came from in my psyche, but all of a sudden they're here and they're on paper. And I'm supposed to have a draft of it by the 5th of next month. And I'm just like,
Merry Crisis.
Merry Crisis. It's March.
That's such a good name for it, though.
My Merry Crisis, it's March.
Yeah. No, but like Merry Crisis, that's a cute name for a Christmas show.
It would be. My working title right now is called the Broken Angels Christmas, and it like the impetus of the narrative is a kid comes home and is told to set up the nativity and accidentally breaks the wings off the angel, and is trying to convince everyone that there was never an angel in the box to begin with because they don't want to take responsibility for the fact that they broke it. And that's like one of the many issues that his family experiences. So that's
gaslighting.
Yeah, there's a little bit of gaslighting in it, but it's also like not too serious. Like it's a Christmas
childhood gaslighting.
Yeah, it's childhood gaslighting. But we're at the part where all of the characters are there now, and I'm just like, all right, what kind of stuff do they have going on that makes this a time where things are gonna happen? That fun part of writing and being a creative where you're just like, we're all gathered here, anything could happen. But that's kind of what's giving me life this week. Which honestly just happened last night. So I'm like, oh yes, the week. The entire week. It's like, I did this last night. I came home at 6 p.m. and I spent 2.5 hours writing, and now I'm like, it made my week on a Sunday.
Yes.
So. But yeah, besides this, because I do really enjoy this as well, it does give me life. It does give me life. Seeing you guys for the first time in so long.
Yeah, I've been really looking forward to this.
It's been 6 months.
I didn't realize how much I missed you until I saw your faces. And I was like, Allie, Caroline, oh my God.
We're here.
Because that I just saw like a month ago. So.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I guess I'm not special anymore.
No, you're not.
You're special always.
Thank you. Thank you, Allie. You are too. You are too. Let's get back to talking about Dusk. I told you this could go literally anywhere. I don't think I asked most of you guys how you auditioned for Dusk. How did you find this project? Because honestly, I found it on Facebook, like an old person.
Too.
You found it on Facebook too? Awesome.
Yeah.
Tell me about your audition story.
Well, we're probably in that same like actors in Scotland Facebook group together that everybody is in. Because there's like maybe 50 actors in Scotland and everybody knows each other. It's a small community here, which is nice. Let's see. I auditioned for it because I was like, you know what? I think I'll get this part because I have my own housing in Edinburgh. and then they won't have to pay for me. Mostly because I didn't have the confidence, like I didn't think I was gonna get it because I had been like striking out all year and I hadn't sung in a while, and like it wasn't really a dancing musical. So I was just like, this is gonna be really based off of my acting and the fact that I have free housing. And then I really didn't think I was gonna get it. So I just did the self-tapes like randomly. And I was like, well, I hope so, because it sounds fun. It'd be great. But I had like zero hopes. I was just like, it's just another self-tape that I'll submit and then get a no back from. But then I was so excited and meeting with like Dan and Morgan, and they were so great and just so, yeah, just got very lucky. But no, I think my audition process was I just recorded it all like one day in my living room while my flatmates were gone. And it took me like an hour or something. And then I stressed over it and I took like tons of videos. And I had all my friends like review them and pick which monologue. I was like, this line had like slightly different intonation than this line, but otherwise the versions are exactly the same, but which one is better? Like which one I like, because I get very like, I don't know, anxious for audition stuff. Yeah, nitpicky. And I'm like, what if like, do you want more breath on the very first word of the monologue? Or like, is it more of a, like, do we ease into it? Like I get so, and like, definitely it doesn't matter, but I just get so anxious about stuff like that. So yeah, I just took a ton of videos and then sent them in and then was like, oh, I'll never hear from these people. But I'm happy I did, because you all are so lovely.
I hate that that was your expectation, but like I so relate because honestly, people ask all the time, like, oh, you seem to be doing so many things. Like, how do you manage rejection? And I said, I honestly apply to so many things that I forget that I have applied to them. And if I hear back from them, it's out of the blue.
Yeah.
And you're 100%. Like,
100%.
Oh, wow, you surprise yourself because you're like, I didn't remember applying to that.
Yeah, I was like, I've auditioned for so many university things. There's no way I'm getting something that's like a level up from that. So I can't even get into the stuff at my own university. So like, there's no way in hell I'm getting into like this random musical from going from the US to Scotland. Like, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, shows you that the industry is different and they're teaching. Ooh, almost like it's different. Caroline, how did you find yourself in Dusk?
How did I find myself?
How did you find yourself?
I just reflected so much. So I found it on TikTok, which I have since deleted. TikTok is bad for the brain, guys, but it had to go for me. So, but I'm glad I didn't before Dusk. But yeah, I just it kind of similar. I mean, we all know about my visa, but basically I was like, I've got like, I need a job for this visa. I need a freaking job. Like, I need something. And then I just saw this on TikTok and I was like, I love Fringe. I know a lot about Twilight. I'm gonna do it. And I at the time I was taking a acting Shakespeare class at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, and I workshopped my monologue for Dusk with the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. And so that was my like dramatic, because they had us do monologues, which I was really impressed by, because I think like so many musical auditions, they're just like, we want 2 songs and to show your range, and like maybe we'll make you act in like 5 rounds later. But at Dusk they were like, no, we want to hear you talk for 2 minutes and then we want to hear you sing. So I did, what did I do? I think I did Think Not I Love Him from As You Like It, just because that was the one I was working on at the time. And I also thought it was quite, I auditioned for Rosalind, so I was like, this is quite repressed. It's giving Rosalind. So I did that. And then for my comedy monologue, God, I have no idea. No, my dramatic monologue, I actually don't know. I did something else. And I think it was also Shakespeare. Then no, I think I just did 2 Shakespeare monologues, and then I had a cold and I couldn't sing above like a middle C. And I was like, what am I gonna do? And I just was like, do you know what? Amy Winehouse. So I did he walks away, the sun goes down, tears dry on their own. And I was like, this is such a rogue audition. Like, they're gonna look at this and be like, what is going on? But yeah, so I did that, and I was I was literally, I was like, I'm praying to the heavens. Like, I need a UK credit, like in my adulthood. I need something to get me to stay in this country. And wouldn't it be so funny if it was Twilight, the parody musical, which was what I called it at the time, to myself. But I know the name now. But yeah, so I just, that was my audition process. I was like, please. And yeah, it was so fun. I had a great time.
I can't believe we did the same monologue.
Did we do
I
the same
did,
monologue?
yeah, I did As You Like It.
No way. Oh
Yeah.
my God. That's hysterical. Oh.
Yeah, that was my comedy one.
Oh yeah. I have
Oh,
no
that's
idea
so
my dramatic
cute.
one is, but
I did Joe from Little Women for my dramatic one. And then I sang Dear Evan Hansen.
I love that we all found Dusk through different social media platforms. Because I found out about it through Instagram, but not because I found it. My roommate sent me the reel where they're like, we're looking for people to audition for our musical. And she's like, you should audition for this. And it was very much a situation where I was like, oh, I want this so badly. And like Audrey, I was like, oh, well, then that I'm not going to get it. And the more I thought about it, it was like, well, you know, the worst they can say is no kind of thing. So I might as well try. And I got very nitpicky. I did a lot of panicking, but I wrote out a whole note to myself that was like 2 pages long about how it's not the end of the world if you don't get cast in this show. A self-help towards handling rejection. And I did a lot of house sitting during that time as like a side gig. And so I recorded my audition in someone else's much nicer house. And I had like, it was in a basement in a much nicer house with a stool on top of a bed with my phone balanced on it so that it would be the right height. It was all very DIY, unhinged. My comedic monologue was from Melancholy Play, where the character is talking to an almond. So I had a literal almond that I pulled out of my pocket and I introduced her like a scene partner. This is my almond. Her name is Frances. And when I had my interview with Morgan and Dan, they're like, you were passing the vibe check just by being the weirdest person. And it was something that I wanted so badly to be a part of this show. And I'm so grateful that I got to, even though the process looking back is so chaotic and I was so stressed about it, but it was all worth it afterwards.
Yeah, I think a lot of us didn't really know what to expect coming into the process. So do you guys want to talk about what your biggest fears were coming into either the fringe process or just the rehearsal process or the entire kit and caboodle?
Yeah, definitely. For me, it was singing. I hadn't like sung properly since high school, and this was now like 2 years into university. So yeah, I was just like shitting myself at the thought of having to sing in front of, and then I heard you guys sing, and I was like, God damn it, nobody's gonna like me. They're gonna be like, why is she here? Someone like put her in the back, sing quieter. Like, I was just like, I had no confidence in my voice at all. I was so nervous. And then like obviously too, the like I think it was on like the first day, Beck did like this insane riff on top of a table, like 2 hours into like the first rehearsal. And I was just like, they're gonna kick me out, like they're gonna find someone else. And then Dan made me sing with Allie because we were understudying like in front of people. And I was so like, that's maybe the most nervous I've like ever been, was like singing in front of everybody. But it was, no, that was like definitely what was the most nerve-wracking for me. I got voice lessons with my high school music teacher before coming to Scotland because I was just like that. I went back to my middle school and my high school music teacher, and I had voice lessons with each of them a couple of times just to like get started and try to figure it out. But then you all were so lovely and had so many like tips and were so helpful in like teaching and explaining things. And Dan, like, you guys really upped my confidence. Like, like a lot. Like it was very, honestly, it's like, I feel like I have a much better relationship with my voice now, honestly, after working with all of you and hearing about like, oh yeah, I struggle with this or that, or try this. Like, have you heard about this one up? Like, it was honestly like the thing I was the most worried about turned out to be like a very big, like, growth for me and like accepting my voice and learning more about it, experimenting with it more. So thank you all.
I think a lot of us were just like mad at each other at a certain point that we were all so self-conscious about one aspect of the show. Because you saying that, I'm like, I don't know whether I want to shake you or hug you when you say that. Because I think every single one of us felt the same way. We were all just kind of like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to fit in. I don't know if I'm talented enough. And I think that is so a part of the industry, and just like not having that confidence to be like, yeah, I deserve to be here. Like I got here through my own power, through my own talent, through my own connections. A lot of the time it's through your own connections, or, you know, just like throwing carrier pigeons out into the ether and hoping something sticks to a wall somewhere. But yeah, I just you're awesome. Hush. Don't hush. Sing more, actually. Caroline, tell me what you're afraid of.
Your transitions are such jump scare. You're like, tell me what you're afraid of. I'm like, I don't want to talk about that. Right. So relevant to this, I definitely walked in. I never been an understudy before, and I was just like, oh my God. Like, I am one of those people. I need to just do things. And part of it is I am so bad about enjoying the rehearsal process. So I was like, this is kind of a terrible thing, because if I'm already not enjoying, if I'm not doing the rehearsal process and then I'm just doing something but I've not practiced it, I was like, this is crazy. And I never went on for Rosalind, but we basically became super swings, because anytime there was any illness, all of the ensemble learned to cover all of our tracks. And like, I think one of the hardest things about covering and swinging and everything is like learning the backstage choreography of what's going on, and like you really do know the show like in ways that you never knew you would know the show. And I think having such a great team of people to work with was amazing and helped mitigate that fear. And then also just kind of realizing that no, people do this, and no one is born like a swing. Like I think there's this myth in the industry. I mean, some people are quicker at picking up skills, and some people have things that make them more amenable to learning these things. But with the pandemic, there's been a greater appreciation for all it takes to do all these things and covering. And yeah, some people have all these skills, but you actually also just need to have things in place to make sure everyone is there to help each other and help kind of get through the show, you know, whatever it is. So that was the thing I was the most nervous about. But again, it was one of those things where I was like, I feel like I could confidently leave that rehearsal, not rehearsal, the show, and be like, oh no, I'm a swing. Like I can do it. Like if you need me to just crack on and do and learn things and learn a scene in like literally an hour, like I can do it, and we can do it. So I love that, but it was terrifying. But yeah.
I feel like I had a little bit of both of y'all's anxieties because, like Audrey was saying, I have never had any professional dance experience. I've never been trained for that. And while I've done some smaller scale musicals, I don't know how to read sheet music even to this day. And so I came in with a lot of imposter syndrome about coming into this larger scale musical, not being very knowledgeable about music or dance, which is so prevalent. and I think it's so interesting, Audrey, that you said that when you and I were rehearsing our understudy moments, how nervous you were. I was also just like sweating and stressed and freaking out. It's like, oh my gosh, Audrey sounds so good, and I'm gonna sound like I couldn't remember whether or not Cosette said we could swear.
You're good. You can swear.
Gonna know that I sound like shit because I'm next to Audrey. She sounds so good. But I think it was one of our first rehearsals in that little like cottage cabin thing we were in, the tiniest of venues doing our rehearsals. And Anthony and Molly both came to me afterwards being like, it's like, oh, you just like it was like, do you want to talk about it? You seem like you've got stuff on your mind. And everyone was so great about reassuring each other. And I think just that moment with the two of those guys really set the precedent that it's like, oh, these are people who aren't here to like hurt me or make fun of me. These are my castmates who are here to support me. And it was so beautiful to be a part of such a caring group of people like that. And my last experience as an understudy was like before Dusk was not a great experience through no one's fault specifically, just a lot of uncontrollable variables. And so when I came into this space, I was worried it was going to be similar, but it wasn't. And like, we did all support each other and we knew so much more than we realized we knew. So when we were studying the choreography for like backstage and everything, when the time came, we were all able to pull our weight. And I think it's important to remember that you know more than you think you do. You're more prepared than you think you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have such respect for all of you guys that were in the ensemble because something was different every single night. I mean, something was different for those of us who were going on as, principal or family every night as well because of illness or, the fact that it was 90 degrees backstage and we were wearing 12 layers of clothing. But still, I remember a couple of conversations of just because the show changed so much from when we rehearsed it to about halfway through. So, some of the understudies, you guys being like, please don't get ill. This show is very different than the one we rehearsed. Please don't get ill.
I had to deal with Eve because I was understudying R, and she has so many, like, I think maybe the most lines in the show. And I only got the understudy role the first day of rehearsals. Like, I didn't get it in advance. I read for her because her luggage was late coming in. And then Dan was like, oh, do you want to understudy? So I hadn't prepped the song or started learning anything. So I had a deal. I was like, you got to tell me like the night or the morning before. If you start feeling sick, like I need like 24 hours heads up so that I can try to learn all your lines. Because otherwise, like, it's not happening. She speaks so much. And it's such, like, the dialogue is so specific. And so many lines are very similar, but, like, it's important to get the right order to keep the, like, pacing and the, like, it's a very important part. And just a lot to memorize. So I was like, I need a heads up. Because I'm really glad I never had to go on for her.
Scarlett and I got sick around the same time, and I came into rehearsal one day and I tried to say something, I think I was to Sarah, and I had no voice at all. Like, I couldn't even talk, let alone sing. I was like, And so for me and Scarlett to be sick at the same time, I was like, this could be a problem. Thankfully, it wasn't, and I never had to go on for Bia Collins, but just the idea that it's like, would I be helpful in that moment if I had to go on?
Oh, there's just so many unknowns in live theater. I think it's pretty commendable that we had any time to be self-conscious in this process, just because there were so many things that could have gone wrong. There were so many things that did go wrong. There were so many things that were unexpected and different than we had planned and hoped. And so the fact that we could be like, oh, I don't know if my voice is good enough. And I'm like, we need to get across the stage. It's like, just sing, just go, just dance. Quick, take my mic. Like all of the random stuff that just happened, which kind of beautifully segues into the unhinged moments. because I think we need to give voice to some of our unhinged experiences. I'm going to ask about the rehearsal experience first. We've talked about the little cottage, but I don't think anybody has brought up the fact that it was infested with spiders.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I don't know how you could forget about that. They were everywhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely everywhere. Horribly terrifying. I do not enjoy spiders. I have a respect for small ones. They can live in the corners. They can hang out in plants. But these were not little spiders. These were massive.
I had also forgotten the spiders.
I think this just lets you know how unhinged the rehearsal of the show were, and that your like biggest unhinged moment is remembering a cottage literally infested with spiders, and the rest of us are like, oh yeah, that did happen. I wasn't even thinking about that anymore. Like that just shows you how like chaotic it was that the spider cottage is like so low on my list.
You know, we're out there, we're panicking. There are spiders. C'est la vie.
Yeah, exactly. But to actually answer your question, I would say my most unhinged moment was when Sarah was sick and I learned the fight choreography in the parking lot, like right before going on. And we were like on gravel and I had to be like rolling around because that was so great. And like you were like leading and teaching me that. But it's like a 5-person fight. So to have someone step in and like it was a lot. I was very, very nervous. But it was also so much fun. And so, yeah, we were just like in the parking lot behind the theater. I had like the fake arms out and we were like, it definitely looked crazy. If anybody had happened to walk by, they would have been like, what's happening?
People definitely did, in fact, walk by. And like the green side staff just being like, because we did get locked out.
Oh, yeah.
We did get locked out.
See, again, I was just so stressed about learning this choreography, forgetting the fact that we did, in fact, get locked out as well.
Caroline, what about you? Unhinged rehearsal moments.
I think us trying, like, I'm sure there's another one, but the one that I just remember is trying to get the fucking mustache on in the rehearsal period because also I'll be super real with you, during the rehearsal period the melodies had not yet stuck in my brain, so I was sitting here trying to remember I'm like, okay, what's my harmony part, and I'm also like, okay, I have to get this mustache on, I have to get the I don't know if I can get the mustache on, and we're just sitting there like pulling his clothes off and like throwing them on Molly, and like and then this is like when we were doing the show, the mustache went missing about 5 times, and it got to every single day I was looking for that mustache, and I was just like, no one told me in drama school that I would be spending 70% of my time searching for this mustache. So yeah, rehearsing for the costume change. Oh, what? That's You Save Me, isn't it? No. Or is it? Yes.
Yeah, that's You Saved Me.
I don't even remember. I just remember it was mustache time. I was like, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know. All I know is I've got to put that mustache on his face, and it was great.
I just want to bring up, before it's totally off topic, a moment during a performance when Caroline was trying to get the mustache for Jamie and the air conditioning unit blew it up into the sky. And so we're backstage, the show is actively happening, and suddenly I just see Caroline just like grabbing at the air as there's a mustache floating above her. And that is a beautiful moment for my brain.
I totally forgot about that. I'm so glad. I genuinely, I think I locked that part away because the stress I felt was too strong to remember. Thank you for bringing it up.
It's one of my most treasured memories at this point. But in regards to the chaos of rehearsal, I just remember all the times we had to carry set pieces from one end of campus to the other in the rain. I remember like carrying tables and like having things over my head and it just being like, okay, guys, we just have to hustle. It is pouring down rain. You know, the less glamorous side of theater, but fun to look back on.
I remember Dylan moved a table like all by himself, which was very impressive. Also, didn't those of you who were staying at Harriet Watt, didn't you stay up to like 3 a.m. helping with costumes one night too? And we had rehearsal at like 9 the next morning or something like that.
There were people who helped with costumes to like 3 a.m. I was not one of them, but I did help a different night build the table and chairs that not Charlie. My brain suddenly forgot what Chuck. I don't know why I forgot what his name was in our show. But yes, Chuck's table and chairs. There are some very funny pictures of Molly having to sit on them so that I can screw them from the bottom because we didn't have a drill. But yeah, there were a couple of nights of either staying up super late to work on costumes or set pieces.
Yeah, there was also the rehearsal night, the 2 nights before open when we had to block Andy into the show. So we stayed late and blocked the entire show with him and taught him the dances in the common room in the accommodation because we didn't have access to the rehearsal space anymore.
Props to Andy for coming in so last minute and learning everything and just immediately being a part of this large group of people, and he fits so well. He's so funny, great to work with, and I'm very proud of him for all he accomplished in such a short amount of time.
I think every single episode of the podcast somebody has brought up how much they loved working with Andy.
He's great.
He's great. He hasn't been on the pod, and I don't think we're gonna have the opportunity to get to talk to him, unfortunately. But so I think we kind of hit unhinged moments of rehearsal and during the Fringe, and we have kind of touched on the fact that a lot of illness happened. So did you have any tips or tricks for maintaining health, either mentally or physically, throughout a 27 performance run in 29 days?
I was also in another show at the same time. So I don't think I was taking great care of myself. I think I was just trying to like get enough food, rest, and like water to keep going. But I guess maybe having like a nighttime routine. Like I found when I went home and I like hung up all my costumes and my wig and I like set everything up. I also made like a hot toddy every night. I'd do mint tea with some whiskey and honey and I'd have it before bed because it helps me sleep. And I was also like, whiskey will kill anything like grown in the throat, and then the honey to like soothe it. That was my logic. That's probably totally false. So I don't know, that alcohol. Alcoholism is great. No, I don't know. I don't think I did a very good job with that, in all honesty. I was like hanging on by a thread. I got so sick once I moved to Spain.
Caroline?
Right. So I'll start with the things that weren't good. I had Taco Bell every single night and I loved it so much. It made me happy emotionally, but I don't think it was nutritious in the way that would have been beneficial. Also, I was working on my visa pretty much. I was a full-time applying for your visa girly because it's a long process. So I really felt like Dusk was my night job and my day job was like doing this thing. So I think the one thing that I was able that I did, because I drank a lot of water and I did like making sure I had vegetables when I wasn't going to Taco Bell. But I love Taco Bell so much. And but yeah, I think literally going for walk, like I walked everywhere because living in London, like you can't walk to work. It will take you 7 hours. I did do it once. It was 7 hours. But in Edinburgh, just kind of being outside and with the fresh compared to London. I'm not bashing London, but going on walks, like walking to rehearsal and just kind of getting physical exercise that was manageable for me was really good. It kind of helped my brain reset as well. And we bought out all of the Gatorade and Lucozade in the entire of Edinburgh because we had to have so much water because it was so hot in that venue. I know we go on about it, but I mean, it's already important to be hydrated as a performer. But so yeah, I would say just kind of taking time to also be around people. I really didn't drink. It was not, I knew it would have been the wrong thing for me. At the end, I did. But yeah, and I think just connecting with people and getting lunch when I could because I was so busy and I didn't see that many shows. But like Audrey and I live really close to each other, so we would walk home together every night, and that was really nice. And then yeah, just kind of just making all those efforts to make those connections because that's what makes friends special. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved our walks home. We'd stop in this little like Turkish market and we'd get these little soda things that we were obsessed with because they came in a clear can. And for some reason that was really, really cool. And they were like
amazing.
The can was amazing, like actually. And like little snacks. We went there like almost every night, I think, to get like a little treat for the way home.
I also didn't get to see as many shows as I would have liked. I like how you had a night routine, Audrey. For me, it was a lot more of having a morning routine, like taking my time to have like a fulfilling breakfast and just taking some time to be alone and enjoy the peace and the quiet and not run myself ragged throughout the day. But also taking the time to like, I loved the times that I got to get dinner with the cast before we did the show or like go see shows together because it's like this is the way we get to hang out together without it being in the stress of the show, just and getting to enjoy each other's company. Like Wyatt, when Wyatt and Cosette hosted us at their house and we just like played back and forth and their Nate pizza, that was so fun to me and was so and really like helped me mentally throughout the stress of the show.
Game night was fun.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you, Allie. Times when we could be together doing, especially because I was in a show in the morning. So my morning routine was I'd roll out of bed, I'd maybe eat, and then I'd get ready and go to my morning show because our show was so late that like in order to get enough sleep, I just kind of had to run out the door in the morning. That then like the time I had to actually relax was with you guys, like in the afternoons between shows, and kind of like that's when I would take care of myself is when we were all like hanging out or doing something together because I just didn't have any time in like the mornings or the nights. So it had to be, yeah, when we were all hanging out in the evenings.
I know Caroline is joining us from the supply closet of their work. I hope you have a great shift at work. It was so nice to catch up with you.
I just love you all so much.
Have fun. Love you.
Talk to you soon.
Hey, want to hear about an incident?
The incident.
The incident.
Honestly, that's a good enough way to start. Hey guys, interrupting your regularly scheduled Morph Nation podcast. My name is Sarah Michelle Ault. I am here with Allie, as you have seen on the episode so far. We have been alluding to, especially in the first Ensemble episode, an incident that happened, I can't quite remember when in the run, but it was very memorable to a lot of people, but it is Allie's story to tell. So Allie, would you like to take it away as one of our other insanely unhinged moments that happened during our Dusk run?
Sure. This is one of those moments that for a lot of other people, it was really scary. But when I think back on it, it is mostly humorous.
Yeah.
Because if I had to fit this moment into one sentence, I get to tell people that I once fainted on stage while being a graduation cap. And when I came to, I was looking at an egg, a personified egg.
That's me.
That's you. And you know, not everyone gets to say that.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to go into more details and I can color commentate as necessary?
Sure, absolutely. So, like I'm very open about this, but I'm epileptic, and so I have like certain triggers, and one of my triggers just to pass out in general is being overheated, and through no one in particular's fault, it was just very hot in there that evening, and I'm in a morph suit. You know, there's lots
It
of
builds up over time too. This was
yeah.
not like the first show that this happened.
No, this
Not
was
not the first only show that someone fainted. It's not the first show. Like the heat kind of builds up and stays in your body.
Yes. And this was, if I remember correctly, this was towards the end of the run. And, you know, it was lots of cardio, dancing, running around, you know, it's very hot in there. And so I passed out from overheating on stage during one scene. And
It was during Meet the Family, I believe.
yes.
Because that's why I was in the egg costume. Because
Ye-
for context, this is my
For
favorite thing to say. The graduation caps used to be held up by me and Lizzie on a metal bar, and then we realized that is way too quick for Sarah to change into their egg costume. So we got knocked out, and then people of like matching heights were brought in, which is you and Molly.
Yes, it was honestly because of other things occupying my mind at the time. I don't remember locking my knees because prior to that, I had tried very hard to not do that. Like that was something I was consciously
Okay.
thinking about. However, it could happen. It happens to the best of us. I do wish that I got to see how Molly handled that because, you know, I was a little unconscious at the time.
Think what happened. And it's not a good story because Molly described it as waking up from a nightmare.
I am so sorry to Molly.
I think what happened was, so Andy playing Julius, always the savior, especially in this moment, came in, scooped you up, took you off stage. Someone can correct me in the comments, like if I'm wrong about this, but I think it was me, maybe, but like Molly's still on there with the grad caps, like holding them now in the back.
Yes.
Point is
Very
either
heavy grad
person,
caps
yeah.
to hold by yourself.
There's like that fabric adds up. I was getting like a real muscle from doing that.
Ripped.
Ripped from holding the grad caps.
All of that Twilight workout.
Oh yeah. Oh, I lost my train of thought. I love us.
Yeah.
Molly is now solo holding, even with the standee at this point, the grad caps, which is too much work for one person to be doing on their own. And also the point was that someone's standing on either side with the grad caps on their head to be like, we are the grad caps. I think you came off stage, you were starting to come to pretty much immediately. And I was like, I think I did the, hey, you're backstage, you're okay. And I remember you describing it to me as like, I woke up in the arms of an egg.
I did. That's what it felt like. No, also to add to the humor, so I'm overheating. So my castmates are trying to help me out of this morph suit. And then the green side employees came to help. So they've got flashlights on me. But for me, that means I'm coming to. I'm half naked and there's a flashlight. I felt like a cave creature, just like with a light shining at me.
It's so bad that the trailer's already out. This is so quotable.
There's just an egg. And I knew like immediately where I was and what was going on. I wasn't suffering in that way, but it was just my brain immediately realized this is ridiculous. That this is happening.
Yeah.
That it's like just all of the things that had to happen at one time. Grad cap, egg, nudity.
I think maybe Caroline was also helping out sort of in that area.
Yeah.
But I remember I was like, is there anything you need? And you tell me that you need water. And so I relay that to Cosette, who like already knows. And everyone backstage who wasn't like immediately doing something is doing what they can to get you water, and also the medical team on site.
Yes.
I think at that
Everyone was-
point, I strip my egg off and go on stage and help Molly. I think that was me, or someone did.
Fever dream?
Um, again, it's just me and Allie talking right now, so, and it's also been almost a year now, so I have terrible memory. But I do remember later on in the show, at that moment, we're like, Allie needs to just not for the rest of the night. They need to recover.
I went and cooled down and laid down and just chilled for the rest of the
Yes.
evening. So everyone was great. Everyone was getting me water. Dan and Morgan, iconic. Love them. They stayed with me and helped me. So yeah, the show must go on.
Yeah. Well, that I was gonna bring this up a bit later, but that was like actually the perfect comment to segue into this is that I can't speak for all of the cast and all of our creative team and whatever, but I do think there is a general sense of that moment being one where we really fucked up.
Yeah.
Because I think this was after our soundboard op, Eli, had to leave the show for their own medical reasons. So
Yes.
we have Wyatt and somebody new up on the board, and there is no official stage manager in these sorts of situations. We hadn't discussed what to do if we needed to do a show stop. And a lot of the reviews that we heard from the audience that night was like, why didn't you call one? So
Yeah.
we made a plan going forward of that was like we need to get our shit together and have a plan. Murphy's Law, like
Yes.
what to do if anything remotely like this happens again.
Yes.
And like who is responsible for making that call in any place in the venue, stuff like that. But unfortunately, it did take us letting you down to get our butts back together and be like, we really care about each other, let's prove it.
Yes. And it was just a really confusing time. And once again, we should have like talked through that before the show, but you know, you live and you learn, mistakes happen. And we like immediately we talked about it afterwards.
Yeah.
And I never felt like my cast and crew, like I never felt like the team didn't care about me or wasn't concerned about my safety or was putting the show above me. I never felt that way. Everyone was very attentive. And so I guess while we should have stopped and like let the audience know that everything was okay or done something differently, I will say that I'm very grateful for the experience that I had and that I was surrounded by such supportive people. And so
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I was there to help you out. I'm sure a lot of people were too. I remember having a conversation with you specifically, just in our many like walks about Harriet Watt by like with each other. Like doing my dance captain duty of like, is there anything I should know that I might have to prepare to cover you for? And you mentioned that that was a possibility. And I think I had forgotten until that moment. And I was like, fuck, I let you down. But a mantra that I like to live by in these sorts of situations is like you do what you can, like you do the best you can with what you have in the moment. And I think to some extent we did achieve that for you.
Yes. And I was right as rain by the next day. And once I was cooled down and rehydrated. So, you know,
Good.
I went back to work the next day, happy to do it.
Yeah. Well, we're happy to have you. And the fact that you are so vital to the show, I need you to know what happened after you left that theater to get treatment. Because, okay, second act starts with Meet the Family, and like, it is busy time for the ensemble. We are doing a lot. So I think in that latter half of the show, obviously I go on as the egg right after Meet the Family. Can I remember my track? It's been a while. But I'm doing a lot of like, hey, can you grab this prop for me? I don't have time to grab it. Hey, can you help me with my quick change? And then also I have like a big quick change from James into prom, which you helped me with actually. And so I had to get someone else that night. But the question came up in the prom scene then, who's going to play Anna. Like, you come on, you have a few lines, you're like, oh my gosh, you're such a cute couple. Okay, bye.
He's
And I was like, well, logically, and also because something about panic situations like turns me into a very competent person? Question mark. I was like, I can do this. I will take that part. With what time I had to learn it, I don't know. Because I was doing all that stuff. But Angela pulled up the script on her phone for me. I read those lines like with any free time that I had, and then I went on and did it. And I think there's a moment where Dylan, who plays Edwin, has the line, "Thank you, Anna." And in the moment, it sounded like I think he still said "Thank you, Anna," but it sounded like he said "Thanks, Sarah." And I was like, "You're so welcome, man."
We're doing great.
So that actually made me feel really competent. The fact that I just like was able to cover like a swing that real fast. I was like, yeah, I'm a dance captain. I can do this.
Yes, you did a great job, and that logically made sense since your ensemble character was one of the few that interacted with Anna and Jenny. So I'm happy that it still would have made sense to an audience member for it to be you.
Yeah. Because we've established that like circle of friends. But yeah, I was happy to help. I'm obviously, as you can see or maybe listen to, Allie's doing great.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm healthy. We're doing great.
Yeah. Anything else you want to button out this little interjection with?
Please support Dusk. I love the show and these people so much, and I say it all the time. I post about it all the time, but I'll never stop supporting this show. I love it so much. It's such a good team, and I wish I could be there this year, but I can't. But I am so excited for this new cast that gets to take on the show. I'm just so.
You know what we should button it out with is the unhinged moment that nobody brought up, which was us backstage.
Cougar and a sheep
every single night. Like the world's like most annoying rom-com stars.
Yes.
So we bring the bed on right after the meadow scene. Which is it's a scene between R and Vampire Bia. And so we have their bed on stage. And so we just stand there guarding that bed, like silently scream singing our hearts out to this music and declaring our platonic love for each other every single day.
We are fully morphed at this point.
Yeah, so I don't think people knew it was us. Like anyone walking by would have been like, yeah, okay, I guess, and continued on.
It was very Power Rangers in the way our heads would dramatically move to express the love, and we hold hands, and no one went
caress each other's faces.
Yes, there was a lot of caressing and holding hands and just swaying over a table that is a bed. No one went harder for Cougar and Sheep than me and Sarah.
For sure, for sure. And if anyone wants to like dispute me on that, you have my number. I bet I'll get a text from Eva like, "Excuse me."
Hey, I'm just saying, I was there, I saw it, and I just feel like we brought a lot of energy from backstage that the audience could feel.
Yeah. So, and to end this on a happy note, that's one of our like positive unhinged moments. Allie was helped. Allie got treatment. We did the best we could in that situation. But now back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
We've lost Caroline. Caroline had to go to work because people are busy. We were having a conversation about staying mentally and physically well during the Fringe, and a lot of us touched on not being able to engage with the Fringe Festival as much as we wanted to because not enough hours in the day and not enough energy and not enough funds, physically, mentally, and financially. So I think that's just a fact of the Fringe, unfortunately, and I know I've talked with a lot of the other groups about that as well. Just the desire to be involved as much as possible with the Fringe is always there. And, I'm sure that's how it is in, bigger shows that are in residence somewhere as well. Your shows are on at the exact same time as your friends. So it's really hard to catch up with everyone and to support everyone in the way that you need to. But you have to support yourself as well. And just staying physically and mentally well enough to do the job you're there to do. It sucks, doesn't it?
It's really surprisingly hard.
It's one of the things you run into just doing theater in general, especially with non-theater friends, is that your nights are always booked. And so it's like, oh, we work during the day and you work at night. So when are we going to meet up and do something? And you're like, I have no idea.
It's like, oh, we were supposed to meet up this weekend. So sorry. I'll talk to you in 6 months. As what happens. It's really what happens, unfortunately. It's like you get out of like college, university time where you're like just interacting a lot with the same people. And then all of a sudden you're just like, I have to structure my own time to be with these people now.
Yeah.
How do you do
I think
that?
on the positive side of that, though, when you're in the theater, you know you're working with people who love it because you know the sacrifices they're making to do it, and you all come towards it with that likeness. It's like, I know that you are having to sacrifice the way I am, and so we're both doing it because we're passionate about it. And I do love how there's already that bond between people in theater as soon as you meet them.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
That's
I
like
think it,
the baseline.
yeah. I think it helps so much too for like when we talk about a cast kind of being like a family. It's true because they're the only other people who are free to hang out when you're free to hang out. So it's like if you want to go do anything, you kind of have to like you all stick together, you're all on the same schedule. And it's like, yeah, and you get the sacrifices and the stress of it. And yeah, it's just it's not very comparable to other jobs or other lifestyles. So I think that really is what helps like keep the theater community so close.
And a lot of the time, you're interacting with people that you either have a positive or negative association with on the stage and, creating those relationships outside of the stage so that you can healthily go into a rehearsal process where, there's artificial experiences happening that you have to make look and appear as realistic as possible. And being able to have that dialogue and that relationship, even if it doesn't look anything like the one that you have outside of the theater space. So,
Yeah, definitely.
I think we did a really good job of creating a little family.
Yeah. I mean, I think nothing says it more than like how active our group chat still was like a month after the show ended. I mean, it's quieted off a bit now just because people are like, we're in that time of year where people are just so busy. It's like that Christmas holiday season and then this weird little bit before spring that just is, it's just the worst. It's just so busy. But like even still like doing stuff like this and having, yeah, I feel like it's very cute. We all like keep in touch, and like Zia visited Helen like a little while ago in California and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's just nice when you always want it to last past the show, but it's like 50-50 if that actually happens. And so it's just nice that we're all still like quite close and wanting to see each other and chat and hang out.
I just think it's incredible that, like we were talking before we started recording, that it's been, 6 months? And we're still interacting with each other on social media. We're still commenting on each other's things and like trying to keep up with each other's lives and doing things like this. And that we can just fall back into conversation as quickly and naturally as we did before. And I think that is a beautiful, unexpected bond that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, like just last night I had Zia reach out to me about something and, reaching out to everyone to schedule the podcast and stuff like that and getting people's response being like, anything for you, Mother Cosette. And I'm just like, oh my God, you guys still like me.
One of the very first rehearsals, I had just met Eve probably 2 minutes prior to this, and then they and I were sitting on the floor like in each other's arms, just curled up waiting for rehearsal to start. And I think it was Dylan who looked at us like, you don't know each other, and like, what are you talking about? We love each other. And that was that.
I agree with Allie. Like we all got so close. But yeah, for those of you listening, who don't know, Cosette is mother. She is the mom of the show. Her hugs keep everyone healthy. That's what I did for my health and my sanity. I hugged Cosette daily, and it kept me alive.
Cosette gives the best hugs. I want everyone to know Cosette gives the best hugs.
It's so true. There should be an award for it. Like, you should get a stipend from the government. Best hugs provided.
I think I hugged like everyone in the cast at least once or twice, but like there were a few of you guys that like just before like every single show would be like, "Can I have a hug?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." So I'd have like my little hug routine with everyone.
Yeah, that was me. If there was anything like going wrong or on my mind, I'd just like waddle up to Cosette and be like, "Can I have a
Here.
hug, please?"
Like, absolutely, come here.
But it's true. You're so professional that you just keep everything running very smoothly and you keep everybody, which is so funny too, because then when you're backstage with you and you're like freaking out over different things, it's like a nice balance. You're like maybe the most professional person I know. And then when you get space to rant, you're like fully like, "Oh my God."
The things that I would rant about backstage were like also the most unhinged, because it would be like not even related to the show. Sometimes it would just be like I would get really upset because, the shows before us would like leave some sort of sticky liquid on our set, and I'd just be like, "The unprofessionalism, they didn't clean it." Or just like, "If one more person disrespects a member of this cast, I will harm someone."
Yes.
My sense of justice was just like through the roof at that venue.
It's so true though, because you're so professional and you take such good care of everyone that then it only makes sense that you have these moments where you're just like, "Ah, I need people to behave accordingly."
Speaking of the venue, shout out to Phoenix though for being the best person there.
So true.
I really hope Phoenix decides to come back and we can request to have Phoenix working on shifts with our show.
Yes, absolutely.
She's
like honorary cast member.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it was fun to have so many children in the show.
Yeah.
I don't know when everyone collectively decided that I was mom either. I think it was just like a subconscious decision because
Yeah.
I had Dan and Morgan coming to me too. And I'm like, "You're the directors."
The day I found out Dan was younger than me was the weirdest moment of my life. Not because, like, for any reason other than you're so impressive, you've accomplished so much, and you seem so mature. Not that he's that much younger than me, but just in my brain, it's like, wow.
It's like, "You've gone viral on social media." And then
Yes.
you're just like, "I'm 24." And you're like,
And I'm 27 with no money and no prospects.
"What happened to my family?" Oh, I love the theater. It brings all of us weirdos together.
Yes. Bring all the weirdos to the yard.
Indeed, indeed. And they were called and they came.
Mhm.
We showed up in force. And we have fans because we sold out twice.
Fuck yeah.
That was so impressive of us.
It was.
Like,
It really
yeah.
was.
Yeah, I can't even downplay it. Like, that was so impressive of us, guys.
When I saw other people on the street, like having to pass out flyers and stuff for their show, I was so overwhelmed by how stressed out that we were about our show, and we didn't even have to do that. It's like, if I had to fill my day also with that, I can only imagine. And so, more power to them. I hope they get their rest. To all those people.
Did you guys
Also,
ever think
sorry.
about the fact that we sold out our entire run and added another run before we had finished choreographing the show, and we had never done a run through of the show?
Yeah, that's insane.
I can honestly say that I never thought about it in those terms.
Like we sold out a show that didn't exist yet
Yeah, I don't
in the
even.
format that we were selling.
I honestly have no words for it. Like, I have no explanation. It makes zero sense to me. One of the mysteries of the world. Like, what happens in the Bermuda Triangle and how did we sell out Dusk?
Whenever someone reminds me of things like that and just like what a big deal the show was on that kind of scale, I can't even process it. I'm just filled with so much pride for the show that we did and like so much joy. I can't mathematically figure out how that happened. I'm just so excited that it happened.
The calculations that we made were very specific, and none of us got the same answer, but somehow it worked.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, we're bad at math, but we figured it out. We made some choices.
Yeah, to sell out that long a run at that time at night for a new show, like first time at the Fringe, like that's just like kind of unheard of, in all honesty. Like, very few shows have done that.
I can't recall one.
Yeah, it might actually be unheard of.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah,
I mean,
it might just be Dusk.
It's like prior to Fringe, the show had been performed at Gannon, but that was it. You know, it's like this brand new thing that, thanks to this age of the internet that we live in, was able to get the footing it needed to succeed. And that's just incredible.
Yeah, it's insane to have a show start in Pennsylvania and then perform in Scotland, but have such like a wide fan base. Like, I think it was Dan who sent us being like, we have the most listeners in Germany. Like, the soundtrack gets listened to the most in Germany or something like that. I feel like I remember Dan sending me that or something. But yeah, and like where people flew from like Poland to come and see the show after like 2 clips on the internet. Yeah.
The distances people said that they flew to get there just to see Dusk, like that was their main goal at Fringe. They were seeing other things, but they're like, we flew to see Dusk, was so, I don't want to use the word incredible again, but it's just awe. Like, I'm in awe of this, how large the scale was, or how much people cared about this, how much it mattered to them.
Yeah, and like I did another show during that time, and we were not as like fortunate in terms of venue or like performance numbers or audience numbers. So just to see like, which is pretty normal. Like, we did pretty good though for like a first time Fringe show, but just seeing like I had like the normal kind of first time Fringe experience and then Dusk, and just seeing that like they weren't even comparable. Like, they were on such different levels, but they were in the same venue, like with the same, like, I don't know, it was a very insane like juxtaposition between the two.
Technically, you starred in 3 shows at Fringe.
Did I?
You did that ad-lib importance of being earnest thing with
Oh,
me.
yeah, I forgot about that. That was so fun.
The last day in Scotland, Audrey and I got pulled from an audience for like an improv importance of being earnest where we were in love and it was great. And so now Audrey gets to say that technically she did 3 shows in Fringe in the same year.
It's true.
I think it's absolutely wild that this experience happened because of Twilight. What is your relationship with Twilight as a 20-something? And realizing that media and this time in history and internet existence is why we had this crazy, amazing, weird, funky experience.
I think it just shows you how like popular it still is and how much nostalgia people have for it. And like for me, it was interesting because I was one of the younger like members of the cast. So I kind of missed the like peak of the Twilight fanfare. Like I was kind of coming into the age to watch it around the time of like the last movies. I'm 20. So like I kind of missed like the peak of like, yeah, like when I read it, it wasn't like that popular anymore. So I think I didn't really like I had heard of and people had always talked about like the fanfare around it, but I don't think I'd actually like experienced it or seen how much it could like still carry over. But it was nice for me because then I felt like I got to live out my dream of being like a Twilight fan, which had kind of passed when I was like the right age to do it. So I got to do it in the end. So very happy about that. And honestly, actually here in the volunteer house while I'm staying in Peru, we've been watching the Twilight movies and they want to watch the pro shot of our show. So I'm gonna have to Dusk.
I have to plug the pro shot. Watch
Yep,
the pro
plug the pro
shot.
shot.
Buy the pro shot. It's got to
Only
throw it out there somewhere.
$7 pound something. Little bit of money. Barely any money.
But the joy will live on forever in your heart after you watch it.
Exactly. Remember when you would like buy a DVD and then you'd have it forever? That's what the pro shot is.
I still do that.
You still have a
Very
DVD player?
Yes. Audrey, you do not understand how many DVDs I own. I'm very proud of it. You know how people collect vinyls? I have one of the largest DVD collections that I am aware of. Because I own over 200 DVDs.
Damn. I think even when we had a DVD player, we had maybe like 40. What's the weirdest DVD you own? Like, what's the niche?
Ooh. I have I think it's 1989 live action edition of Snow White that very few people have seen. It's and it's one of my favorites. I have a lot of movies that people have not heard of. Surf Ninjas, the Raggedy Ann and Andy musical from the 70s.
No, now I want like a 73 questions, but it's just you and your like DVD collection.
Yeah.
This is a separate podcast episode, is a tour
This
of
is.
Allie's DVD collection.
Sorry that I even brought it up.
The lore intensifies.
Yeah.
The lore.
The lore.
TM.
What were we talking about?
I have no idea. We were talking about Twilight and how it was a pervasive thing
yeah.
that has spanned decades.
Yes. Oh, unlike Audrey, I was the prime age when Twilight came out. I was very much a fan of Twilight, but I was one of those kids who loved any of those, like the Vampire Diaries, Teen Wolf, like those kinds of like like the YA monster media of that time was my jam. And I loved Twilight. I think a lot of it came from nostalgia with my sister because she introduced me to the movies and we'd watch them together. And I was an emo kid, so it really worked out well for me. And I have the CD of the soundtrack and I listen to it often. It is one of those like pieces of media that while we and the world age and adapt and we're like, this is not so great, but just like the world of Twilight and everything is so comforting to me. So it's like, oh, if I'm having a bad day or something, I'll rewatch all the movies. I had a roommate who had never read Twilight, had never seen the movies. I was like, okay, you have to, like, I won't make you read the books, but you have to watch the movies with me. And watching her go from the first one where she's like, what is going on? This is so weird, to the very end where I won't say what it is for spoilers, but something happens and she's like, I look over at her and she's on the couch, she's like clutching a pillow and she's like, just like watching her progress to caring about it with me it brought me so much joy. And it's like, I love this weird bond we have for this unhinged piece of emo media.
My favorite bit of trivia about the first Twilight film is that there are 2 songs on the soundtrack that Robert Pattinson wrote and performed on, and they put the songs in without his permission.
I knew he like performed them. I didn't realize they got put in without his permission, though. This is knowledge to me.
Yeah, apparently it was they asked for forgiveness instead of permission. And so that song in the background when she is like writhing on the floor, dying, and you have no idea what is being actually sung, that's him.
Mm-hmm.
One of his songs.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like that's why it honestly is like still so popular, is it's got that kind of comfort, but then it's also like unhinged enough that like it's at the perfect level of campiness where you can take it both seriously and not seriously depending on like your mood or how it ages. Like you could be really into it, invested as a kid, and then you can appreciate it for its kind of ridiculousness as you get older, or like vice, but like it totally works in both ways.
It's a choose your own adventure, choose your own genre.
Exactly.
Watching it.
And depending on your mood and your life experience, some of it looks like it aged like milk and some of it aged like fine wine.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's got the perfect, it's perfectly balanced.
No, I grew up reading the books. I went and saw all the films in theaters except for the first one. I remember when the last one came out and it was an event. It was an event. Like you could only get tickets to like the very front row if you didn't buy them in like the first 30 seconds that they had come available. People were driving like 45 minutes into the city to get to see them at certain theaters and IMAX. And
yeah, and it's just nice to see that kind of like love for the series like continue. People still have a lot of like respect and get a lot of joy from it. So
it's super weird. Like, I don't think anybody today would be like, oh yeah, that's the epitome of media. Like it's still ticking off all the boxes.
Yeah.
It is a product of 2008.
And Mormonism.
Oh yeah.
But
I
that's what makes it
surprised.
special.
The Mormonism. The little sprinkle of Mormonism is what makes it special.
Exactly.
Just a dabble, do ya?
Yeah.
I was surprised by how young some of the people were who were so excited about it. Like Eve, didn't we find out that Eve was born like when the first movie was made? Or around that time?
Well,
Yeah,
Eve and I
18.
Eve is like 18. So I would have been 5 when Twilight came out and Eve was 2.
2, yeah.
Or maybe she was 3. She was 2 or 3.
And so for my brain, it's like, you have never known a world that didn't have Twilight in it. And so seeing someone that young be excited about it without having the nostalgia that someone my age had for it was very entertaining for me. When like you talking about how this piece of media has spanned all this time. It's like it's spanned all these ages and it's a family film for all ages.
I can't wait for like 10 years from now when there are young kids who are like, I found this thing that was popular when you were a kid, and I feel like I was just born in the wrong era because this wasn't the media that I can like I know these kids are going to exist. I know they're going to exist and be like, ooh, the classics. And you're like, that came out in 2008. Who are you talking to?
I do feel bad for the kids who are gonna, like, what are your teen years if you don't have Twilight, Vampire Diaries, Teen Wolf, My Babysitter's a Vampire, like, etc., etc. These are, what do you watch then? Like, what do you do with your time?
What do you do with your teenage years if you don't have vampire lore to sink your teeth into?
Exactly. Pun intended.
It was. Thank you for noticing.
You join the cast of a parody musical about the content so that you can continue to engage with the media that brought you joy in the dark times.
Yeah.
Are you guys okay? That was like really. Is that what happened?
I didn't mean for that to sound so emo. But it totally did, and that's okay. The internet can read me for it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's tough out here. We all know it.
It's true.
It's difficult out here. I was a side tangent. I was having a tea with an older woman that I know yesterday. We were having the planning meeting that I was talking about, and she was asking me how things were going, and I was like, yeah, like it's a little bit difficult right now. And she goes, oh, I know. It's fucking terrible, isn't it? This woman is like 67 and like so posh. She's like making tea and she's like, I just hate it for all you young people. It's just fucking awful right now. And I'm like, yeah, Helen. It is. Thank you. Thank you for understanding. Oh, we've come a long way in this podcast. We've thoroughly talked about a myriad of subjects.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Any closing remarks, anyone? Anything you guys want to plug for yourselves or for the show or just whatever?
Come back to the Fringe this year. We'll be back in a slightly different form, but we've got exciting things are coming. So stay alert.
Stay alert.
Stay alert.
Stay vigilant. The kingdom is at hand.
No, but seriously, keep enjoying Twilight and keep coming to see and support Dusk because there will be more stuff coming up.
Go listen to our original cast album on any streaming service, anywhere you get your music from.
Yeah.
If you're an oldie like us, Pandora. There's also Spotify and Amazon and Apple Music. All of those places. The Google. You can Google it and go on YouTube and listen. You can also watch our pro shot for £7.50 and then you own it thereafter. And all of the proceeds from all of those things are going to maintaining future iterations of the show. So you may get to see the three of us and all of our lovely other friends who have joined us for the podcast and some beyond to take the stage again and hopefully this August, and more information to follow.
Stay tuned for Allie's DVD tour.
Yep, stay tuned for Allie's DVD tour. That will be season 2, series 2 of Dusk, a Two-Lit podcast. Well, without further ado, it has been such a lovely time with you guys. And I will say to all of our listeners, good evening, snack cakes, and tune back in later for more of Dusk, a Two-Lit podcast. Bye.